Exposed, 3 spine-chilling true terrors revealed haunted tales of unexplained NIGHTMARES. Lily's heart raced as the summer storm howled outside her Maplewood Hills home. Thunder fractured the night, and the wind rattled the shutters like skeletal fingers clawing for entry. She shot a glance at her 2 teenagers, Max and Zoe, who lounged like shadows on the couch, absorbed in a board game she had promised them earlier. But all that kept flickering in her tired mind were the bills piling up on her kitchen counter, a grim reminder of a life stretched too thin. The pressure of being a single mother weighed on her as silently as the storm. Just one more day, she whispered, a mantra that had become her lifeline, but something felt off. The air grew thick with tension, and it felt like something more than just the storm was brewing. When Max ventured into the basement for an old game, she thought nothing of it. But that was when things shifted. "Mom! You've got to see this." Max's voice echoed from the dark, damp corners of the basement. The light flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. In his hands, he held not the game, but something far more disturbing, serpentine symbols etched into the very foundation of their home. Lily dismissed him, running a hand through her hair as she tried to refocus. "It's probably just mold or something. Don't worry about it." Her voice was steady, but her heart sank when his eyes widened, glistening with a mix of fear and confusion. Outside, the wind shrieked. The evening swallowed their laughter, and as dinner simmered on the stove, darkness crept deeper into their home. The phone rang, slicing through the silence. It was another one of those calls, guttural whispers turned frantic shouts of all the things she couldn't understand. Each one felt like a warning, and she hung up trembling. "Mom, I really think we should call someone about the symbols," Max insisted, his voice trembling, yet filled with determined courage. But Lily had grown weary of panic. She brushed off his concerns, and he went quiet, dread creeping into the silence. The chill in the room deepened, shadows sweeping across the windows like predators in the dark. Max's anxiety tangled through the air, shouted warnings wrapped in the disappointment of a mother too burdened to hear. When he disappeared hours later, after storming out to confront Mike, the local handyman who had shown up with his charming smile and dependable service, panic gripped Lily like a vice. "Max!" she screamed, tearing through the neighborhood, heart racing, desperation clawing at her throat. The police dismissed her fears, telling her it was always the same, teens running off, seeking trouble. "Nothing to worry about, ma'am," they said. But deep down, she felt something was wrong. As she staggered home, the weight of the night pressed against her, whispers snaking through the walls of what she once thought was just a house. Legends flared to life in her mind, urban nightmares that told tales of the seemingly normal neighbor harboring darkness beneath a mask of civility. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her instincts roared to life. With trembling hands, she ventured into the basement, flashlight flickering. The symbols were more numerous now, etched deep into the stone. That S when she remembered the newspapers she had skimmed a month ago. Frantic articles about lost children whispered from the past. Suddenly the door slammed shut behind her, ensnaring her in suffocating darkness. The hairs on her arms stood on end as the shadows writhed around her. Max's laughter, mocking and childlike, echoed from above, and she felt the walls close in. Panic surged in her chest as she scratched the symbols, hoping to sever an unseen bond. Lily's breath caught, heart pounding. What had she awakened? What lay beneath the veneer of their peaceful neighborhood's facade? The shadows pulsed like a heartbeat, and she could feel something watching her from the oppressive dark. Would she uncover the truth before it consumed her family? The fear coiled tighter as the darkness answered back, a sinister whisper creeping closer, "Lily." The echo of the whisper hung in the air, freezing Lily in place. A dread colder than the basement swept over her, gripping her heart like icy fingers. She fumbled with the flashlight, wishing it would cast a firmer beam against the shadows that seemed to crawl closer. The laughter of Max tore through her like a knife, wrong in its familiarity, teasing her and drawing her deeper into the pit of her fears. "Max!" she shouted, her voice faltering as the walls contorted around her. Each syllable bounced back to her as if the darkness swallowed it whole. "I'm coming." She took a shaky step backward, but the sound of her own footsteps felt foreign. Was it her own? Or something behind her, nudging closer? Suddenly, the flashlight flickered violently before giving out entirely, plunging her into a suffocating void. She pressed against the damp walls, cold stone pressing against her palms. Her breath came in panicked gasps. Straining her ears, she strained to discern the atmosphere, any fleeting sound that might guide her back to her son. Out of the silence, a faint rustling emerged. It whispered secrets, rustled like dry leaves skittering across concrete. "Max?" she called, forcing authority into her voice, desperate for control as the shadows writhed like serpents waiting to strike. She pressed deeper into the basement, feeling her way along the walls. What she once considered a mundane storage space had transformed into a labyrinth of horrors, each turn more disorienting than the last. Her thoughts raced wildly, grappling with every horrific possibility. Was there something beneath their home? Some ancient evil that claimed the children? The articles from the past clawed at her memory. Had she ignored warnings that had been waiting patiently, keeping a watchful eye on her family? The sound of laughter grew closer, unearthly and mocking. "Max, please." Her voice cracked. Then she felt it, cold hands brushing her shoulders, gripping her like a vice. She spun around, heart hammering against her ribcage. The shadows shifted, giving shape to something lurking just out of sight. Panic surged, twisting her stomach, compelling her to look, to face whatever horror lay before her. "Mom!" Max's voice drifted from the corner, a sweet betrayal that put shards of glass in her heart. "I'm down here. Help!" She lunged forward through the thickening darkness, reaching out desperately. "Hold on. I'm coming." Just as she closed the gap, images flashed before her eyes, a pale hand gripping Max's arm, too small, too fragile, but powerful with some unseen force. Time split, seconds felt like years as she hurtled towards her son. What was she risking by reaching for him? Suddenly, the grip around her tightened, pulling back harder than she could imagine. Panic twisted into horror as she turned again, the darkness consuming her whole. The walls vibrated as if the basement itself were alive, thrumming with something ancient and dark. "Where are you?" she screamed, as the floor shifted beneath her feet, disturbing dust and debris rising like a swarm of angry hornets. She knew she had to act fast, every moment counted. Then it struck, an idea whispered through her panic. The symbols. If they held power, maybe they could be a key. She rushed to the nearest one, tracing its sinister curves with trembling fingers. But as she whispered the words of warning she could barely remember, the room erupted in chaos. The air thickened, the shadows recoiled as if in pain. And in that moment, a door within her mind sprang open. The truth surged forth, the history of a house, a dark legacy. Enough to freeze her blood. But amid it all, a decision flickered in her chest. "Max, I'm coming," she shouted, voice stronger now, battling against the encroaching darkness, as she tore herself free from the floor's grip. Outside, the storm raged on, but within the house, something stirred. An entity awakening, ready to confront her. Would she confront the horror at the heart of Maplewood Hills, or would it unravel her world completely? The truth pressed closer as she pushed forward, heart pounding. Breathless, but truth may only come at a price. And then the lights flared to life, illuminating a chilling figure behind her. A face that looked terrifyingly familiar. "Hello, Lily." Lily's heart dropped as she spun around to face the figure. Familiarity wrapped around her like a noose. This was not just any face, it was a warped reflection of the very man who had filled countless nights with laughter and love. "Max?" she whispered, fear clawing at her throat, choking off the air. Her eyes squinted in disbelief, searching for a trace of her son within that twisted visage. "Not your Max," the figure hissed, its voice dripping with malice. The grin that spread across its face was grotesque, stretching too wide, revealing jagged teeth sharp as obsidian. "But I can give him back for a price. Where is my son?" She held her breath, preparing to spring into action, but it was as if her limbs were frozen in place. What she saw was not flesh and blood, but something else entirely, a mockery of the man she once knew. The lights above flickered, casting grotesque shadows that danced on the concrete walls. In an instinctive act of desperation, she lunged forward, but the figure dissipated, folding into the darkness around her. The laughter followed, echoing in her head, warping her reality into a nightmare. "Run," it taunted, swirling around her in the shadows. "He's waiting." She didn't need telling twice. Adrenaline surged, kicking her instincts into overdrive. She darted down the narrow corridor of the basement, her breath coming in short, sharp gasps as she stumbled over the debris littering the ground. Every corner turned was like stepping deeper into the jaws of a great beast. "Max! Where are you?" Lily shouted, her voice ragged, filled with a mother's desperation. The basement seemed to grow thicker with each cry, suffocating hope before it could reach her son. A faint glimmer of light flickered ahead, a beacon in the consuming dark. She dashed toward it, instinct overriding logic. With every step, she could hear the soft whimpering echoing within the depths, the voice so heartbreaking, so vulnerable it was definitely her boy. Rounding a final corner, she found a small room lit by the flickering shadows of a lone, struggling bulb. In the center lay Max, bound and barely conscious, a pale figure in the oppressive shadows. Tears wet her cheeks as she rushed forward, but the moment she reached out, an icy wind swept through the space, halting her. The door slammed shut behind her, locking her into this gruesome chamber. "Do you really want him back?" The voice echoed in the confines of the chamber. It slithered through her mind like poison. "Can you pay what it costs?" "No. I will do anything," she cried out, desperation coating her words. "Just let him go." "Anything?" It laughed again, chilling and cruel. "You're already standing in the middle of it." The house remembers. The walls trembled, and the symbols she had brushed against earlier glowed with a dim crimson light, their surfaces alive and hungry. Her mind raced. Those old tales. They spoke of sacrifices, children, families lost to generations of darkness. "Your love could be enough," it said, its form beginning to congeal into something more solid, a grotesque mass of shadows pooling and swirling. "But can you bear what you must lose?" Each heartbeat thundered in her ears, a cacophony of racing thoughts. Could she ever leave Max behind again? "Mom!" Max's voice sliced through her thoughts, it was raw and terrified. "No. I won't lose you." But the cost loomed large over her mind. The darkness beckoned, seductive and thick, almost tangible. Lily's mind raced as she wrestled with the choice laid before her. She had to act, but was she ready to confront the truth of the house and the terrible legacy it bore? Just as she opened her mouth to respond, the entity lunged forward, and the room dissolved into a swirling void of despair, and in that darkness, a chilling laughter echoed, "Choose wisely, Lily. The price is steep, and time is running out." What was she willing to sacrifice to save her son? As fear enveloped her, the walls closed in, leaving only her resolve flickering like the light above. The darkness felt alive, swirling and pulsing as if breathing with malevolent intent. Lily's eyes widened, her heart hammering against her ribcage. The shadows pressed in, thick like smoke, and the walls seemed to warp, closing the distance between her and the figure that had taken her boy's form. "Choose." It hissed, a voice like nails scraping against glass. Choose now before the last flicker fades. The room distorted, stretching and snapping like a rubber band, further disorienting her. Max! Lily cried, her vision swimming as she stumbled back. She could barely see the outlines of her son, his small body trembling, fighting against the ropes that bound him. His face was a canvas of fear, slashed by the flickering light as he stared wide-eyed at her. The grotesque figure loomed, gone and yet present, tantalizingly close. Just a moment longer it cajoled, voice softening, dripping with seductive promises. Don't you see? All I need is a little piece of you. What do you mean? Her pulse raced, terror mixing with confusion. Your love is powerful, yes, but it comes with a price. It lingered, as if savoring each tantalizing word. What is a mother's love worth? How much would you willingly part with? I can feel it, the way you hold on to him, the way you'd burn the world to keep him safe. But could you bear to lose a piece of that love? A fragment that might haunt you forever? The shadows around her shifted, whispering secrets only half formed in her mind, promises and threats wound deeply into the air. The walls pulsed again, the crimson symbols lighting more intensely, dancing wildly like a fire fed by greedy hands. No, she whispered, knowing instinctively where this was leading. I won't give you anything. Stubbornness is a luxury you can't afford, Lily. Laughter erupted from within the darkness, biting and cruel. The world shuddered. Max whimpered softly, and instinct pulled at her. She had to get to him. She made a move forward, only to feel tangible dread, a thick layer of ice creeping over her thoughts, locking her limbs in a waist-deep grave of despair. What must I sacrifice? She yelled. What do you want me to give? Your fears are loud, it rumbled, the form morphing grotesquely before her. Offer up the pain you carry, the guilt, the sorrow. The shadows lengthened, creeping toward her as if tasting the air full of her anguish. The room seemed to spin and lean, and suddenly she felt a pinprick of clarity. All the moments of Max's life, laughter, scars, worries flashed in her mind, a haunting slideshow of love interwoven with the very essence of her being. And then, a terrifying thought bloomed, growing wild and sprawling. Wouldn't he, sacrificing something bigger, letting go of her fears, open the doorway to free him? Stop twisting my mind. She shouted, terror boiling over into a flame of anger. Yet, the entity smirked, the jagged teeth glinting like knives. It faded slowly, dragging shadows along with it, whispering promises she couldn't quite grasp. Think carefully, Lily, it taunted, the breath of its words chilling her to the core. Time is fleeting, and Max will suffer. The room quivered, darkening until only the flickering bulb remained, its light a dwindling heartbeat in the vastness of despair. Lily's resolve wavered, but she tightened her fists, breaking through the suffocating fear. Whatever it takes, I will find a way. She declared, her voice finding an echo of strength. An echo of laughter, wild and haunting, responded. Then we shall see what you are truly made of. Max's gaze caught hers, a glimmer of hope amidst the tangled web of fear. The last flicker above sputtered weakly, and Lily realized they had to act quickly. But would it be enough to save him? The darkness around her pulsed, and time slipped, tightening like a noose. What would she truly sacrifice to protect her son? As the shadows thickened around her, she braced herself for the ultimate confrontation, knowing that evil feeds on darkness, and she was about to plunge headfirst into its abyss. The air crackled with tension, palpable and suffocating. Lily could feel it pressing against her, a weight so oppressive that breathing became a conscious act. Max was still there, tied and vulnerable, but her focus sharpened, fueled by panic and maternal instinct. Time was of the essence. Max! I'm coming for you! She shouted, her voice a raw determination intending to break the nightmare. She pushed forward, fighting against the frosty grasp of the shadows wrapping around her ankles like vines, but the darkness retaliated. The figure morphed again, each ripple in its form a mocking imitation of the monster her mind conjured from deep-rooted fears, from sleepless nights and flickering shadows dancing in the corners of her awareness. Is that all you've got? It growled, its voice slithering into her thoughts, taunting her. Do you really think you can save him? How far are you willing to go? Not far enough to lose him. She screamed, anger burning bright against dread. She had only one option left. Letting go of her fears felt terrifying, yet somehow liberating. Tell me what I need to give. Lily demanded, her heart racing like a locomotive, each beat pounding with desperation. With a grotesque grin, the figure leaned closer, its breath cold, invasive as winter air. Ah, so the mother seeks a bargain. You offer me your pain, and in return it mused, trailing off slowly, savoring the moment, you may just save what you hold dear. Lily shoved down her hesitation, grasping the edges of her turmoil. The guilt over every decision made. The sorrow of sleepless nights filled with cries and worry. With tears now blurring her vision, she clenched her jaw, holding on to that raw ache. Take it. She yelled, feeling embers of her anguish rise to the surface, I can't lose him. The shadows rippled, feeding off her pain like moths to a flame. So be it, it hissed, a wave of ethereal energy crackling through the air. She could almost hear the darkness rejoicing, a twisted symphony played on the strings of her heartache. Suddenly, she felt a tug, a rending as pieces of her essence began to unravel and pour into the darkness, like sand slipping through her fingers. The figure cackled wildly as it absorbed her grief, bitter, sweet, and layered with every sacrifice she had made. It twisted and turned, as if knitting a tapestry of her despair. Now, let us see if it was worth it, it sneered, and Lily felt it Max's bindings loosening, his form flickering, revealing a glimpse of hope. Max! She cried, desperation mingled with a hint of joy. He was fighting back against the ropes, the flickering light casting their shadows across the walls, merging hope with darkness in a chaotic dance, but then, a sharp pang shot through her. The sacrifice cut deep, a jagged edge that left her gasping, emptiness gnawing at her core. What have I done? She whispered. Ah, you'll find out soon enough, the entity whispered, its laughter chilling her flesh. The world around her felt unsteady, the walls bending and shifting violently. This was no victory, it was only the beginning. Lily felt the ground quake beneath her feet as the entity's power grew stronger, feeding off the sacrifice she had made. Max! She shouted, reaching out, but the shadows swirled faster, consuming her vision. We have to escape. The pulse of darkness responded, tightening around them. Screams echoed from the depths, blending with the laughter of her dark captor. Her heart raced as instinct kicked in. The horror of losing Max weighed against the remnants of her strength. In this moment of chaos, as the ceiling seemed to thunder above her, a thought struck her: would it be enough? Could the sacrifice she made be the key to their escape, or a gateway to deeper damnation? As thunderous laughter echoed, Lily felt her body being pulled apart, inch by inch. Would they ever see the light again? Would her heart's sacrifice bring salvation or doom? And there it was, the real question looming heavy in the air. How deep does the darkness stretch, and what awaited them on the other side? The shadows writhed like a living thing, and Lily could feel their icy breath on her skin, clawing at her sanity. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, the rhythm pulsing louder and faster. She thrust her hands forward, trying to reach Max, her fingertips grazing his shoulder just as the darkness swirled again, pulling her away. Max! She screamed, voice cracking. The tendrils tightened, squeezing her like a vice. She looked down, horrified to see the shadows creeping up her arms, devouring her flesh, gnawing at her very essence. No! I made the sacrifice for you. Desperation wove through her words, wrapping around her chest like a jagged shackle. Sacrifice? The figure crooned, its voice curling like smoke around her. What was given cannot be returned. Your pain is mine now, it laughed, a sound so horrible it turned her stomach. Lily's heart raced as she looked between the flickering shadows. She could barely see Max fighting within them, his form barely distinguishable. But she could sense him, an energy pulling at her, fighting against the darkness. His determination seeped into her bones, lending her some strength in a place where everything felt rotten and heavy. For one fleeting moment, their eyes met. Fear and ferocity brimming in Max's gaze. It ignited a fire within her. "Lily!" he shouted, voice barely scraping through the cacophony. "You have to let go of your pain. Fight it." But it took so much, she gasped, the cold tightening further, sapling roots of despair now entwined deeply in her soul. "How do I not letting it define you?" His words rang clear like a bell, slicing the smog of despair. It tempered her fear, it was a lifeline across a chasm filled with darkness. Could it be that simple? She twisted, wrenching her body away from the pull. "You don't get to own me," she growled, heart thundering as adrenaline surged through her. The darkness howled in defiance, pain flickering in its cloudy visage. She felt the bitterness of her grief bubbling, wrestling with a new sensation, a flicker of hope igniting within her. Each step forward felt like a rebellion against the shadows. She drew strength from Max, the love they shared rekindling a light deep within her gut, a defiance she didn't know she possessed. "You have nothing to hold against me," she snapped. "I will not drown in this fear." Suddenly, the figure twisted and writhed, angry that its feast was escaping. Shadows whipped around them in a frenzy. "You think you can defy me?" it screeched, its voice splitting the air. "You're more mine now than ever before." "Max, hold on!" Lily shouted, thrusting her hand out toward him. The shadows recoiled at her words, as if every declaration of defiance pushed them back a little further. The air swirled as a cyclone, tearing at them, but Lily felt her resolve hardening. "We will escape. Together." With renewed vigor, she pushed against the darkness, urging it back with every ounce of sorrow and pain she had once tasted. The shadows recoiled, shrinking like melted wax. "Max!" she cried again, a single thread of hope weaving them closer, the light between them intensifying. "Take my hand." He lunged, the shadows breaking apart momentarily as they grasped each other's hands. The lights flickered wildly, illuminating the space around them, darkness recoiling from the brightness they forged together. But then, a familiar voice broke through the chaos, slicing through their momentum. "What you've unleashed can never truly be defeated." Lily froze, cold dread flooding through her. The shadows hissed in agreement, creeping once more toward their exposed bond. The dark figure coiled near, a smile unhinging its jaw. "You have only roused my hunger." Your sacrifice ignites a hunger that will never die. As they fought to escape, an unseen force pulled at their connection, threatening to tear them apart again. Lily felt it, fear creeping back in, taunting her. Would they ever truly be free? In that moment, she sensed it, a reality worse than the shadows that surrounded them. What awaited them if they escaped? Was their fight only the prelude to something far more sinister? The question loomed, might the very act of defiance provoke something even darker than before? Panic gripped Lily as she fought against the suffocating shadow. Every second felt like hours, drowning her in the dark's chill. She could feel her thoughts slipping, gnawed at by fear and despair. Max's grip felt like a lifeline, yet the darkness swirled around them, eager to sever their bond. "Stay with me," she gasped, feeling the bonds of shadow constrict tighter as if the very air thickened with malice. Lily's eyes darted to the figure, which flickered with every heartbeat, twisting into countless faces of torment. Each visage echoed her innermost fears, taunting her with memories of loss. "Your pain is the key," it hissed. "Embrace it. Let it consume you both." "No!" she screamed, defiance bursting from her like an erupting volcano. Desperation fueled her, a fire igniting a flicker of resilience. "We won't let you win." With each pulse of her heart, she steadied herself, pulling as much light from within as she could muster. The warmth of her memories, the laughter, the love, the long talks under the stars, they became her armor against the encroaching darkness. "Max, focus on us," she urged, hoping he could understand through the chaos. Their hands, clasped together, began to glow faintly, a beacon against the cloying shadows. "We can do this. We have to believe." The shadows convulsed, lashing violently, but Lily could feel a shift. Somewhere deep within, a current of power surged like a river breaking free from ice. It pulsed through her, guiding her instincts. "Let go of the sorrow," she shouted, the words echoing a strange truth. "You are stronger than this." The darkness swirled angrily, twisting and arching like a raging tempest. Tendrils whipped toward Max, trying to ensnare him, but her voice held steady. "Remember your love for me. Remember who you are." In that moment, Max's eyes ignited with a fierce light. "We're in this together," he proclaimed, voice booming amidst the chaos as he echoed her plea. The shadows lurched back, a collective gasp rippling through their vaporous forms. Then came a crack, sharp and sudden, like lightning splitting the sky. The figure howled in torment, a mix of fury and hunger that sent ice through Lily's veins. "You cannot escape. You have unleashed what you cannot control." A tremor shot through the ground. The world felt unsteady, the shadows breaking apart, losing their grip as fissures opened beneath them. "Now! Pull!" Max yelled, his voice ringing like a clarion call, a battle cry against the darkness threatening to engulf them. Lily felt the raw energy swell, and with a surge of clarity, she drew every ounce of adrenaline into her arms. "Together!" she urged, pulling with all her might, channeling the light thrumming between them into a force strong enough to contend with the darkness. Then, just as they thought they might shatter the grip of the shadows, a sobering realization slammed into her: the figures surrounding them were growing larger, multiplying like an army unleashed. Every face she recognized people from her past, loved ones twisted into reflections of despair. Their cries echoed, melding into a cacophony that shook her core. The shadows were shifting, revealing dark truths, not just fears. She could hear whispers taunting her, pulling at her doubts as they echoed through the air. "You think you can save him? You think you're fighting for love? All you are is sunlight pretending to be free." Unease spread through her like a poison, and panic churned in her gut. "Max, look out!" She pointed just in time as a claw of shadow lunged toward him, poised to strike. "No!" Her voice sliced through the looming horror, but the shadows laughed, hungry and relentless. They were trapped in a web of terror, barely holding on, but was it worth it? Was love enough to withstand this onslaught? As the shadows pressed closer, obscuring hope, the final breath of confidence flickered. Would they even survive long enough to face what lurked beyond this darkness? The figure hissed one last time, its voice now a low growl. "This is only the beginning. What lies ahead is far worse." Lily knew she had to act. But what? If the depths of the darkness concealed something worse than they could imagine? Would they plunge further into despair or rise victorious, uncertain of what awaited them beyond? As the darkness lunged, time warped around Lily. The shadows stretched and morphed, forming grotesque shapes that seemed to grasp for her, pulling every ounce of light from her heart. Her breath hitched, sharp and shallow, as the dread intensified. Each jagged face bore down upon her with silent screams, reflecting her deepest guilt. In their eyes, she saw betrayal, echoes of mistakes she'd made. Her failures pricked at her like needles, relentless and cruel. "Hold on!" Max shouted, his voice crashing through the cacophony of despair. He turned towards her, his resolve ignited though the shadows flickered menacingly around them. "We can't let them take us. Remember us. Fight for that." Tendrils coiled around Max's legs, freezing him in place. Panic shot through her like flames. "No! Max!" With every ounce of strength, she wrenched her body against the shadows. The warmth of their love surged again, flickering golden light that pushed against the creeping blackness. "Fight back!" Lily's voice echoed, carrying the weight of every moment they'd shared, every laugh, every dream. She let it fill her, and as if in reply, the glow around them flared brighter, illuminating their raw vulnerability. But the shadows pushed harder, drawing titanic form around them, suffocating, consuming. The temperature plummeted as memories spiraled, horrible images flooding her thoughts, her mother's face twisted in pain, the silence of a grave, the heartache of helplessness. The shadows recognized her fears, feasting on them, their laughter rippling through the dark. "You think you can escape this?" A voice rumbled from within the depths. It was familiar yet twisted. "You can't fight your own darkness. This is who you are." Lily felt her knees buckle. Doubt seeped into the edges of her mind, cold and heavy. "Max, I can't." She gasped. "Yes, you can." Max shouted, pulling against the binds of shadow, his determination breaking through the despair. "We're stronger than them. Remember?" The light pulsed, the darkness recoiling as if burned. Lily clung to that moment, her memory solidifying into a shield. She could almost see their bright futures, the simple things they cherished. It ignited a fire inside her once more, a desperate rush of hope. "Hold my hand, Lily," he urged, the intensity in his voice piercing the suffocating aura. Weakness slipped from her muscles as she grasped his hand tighter. With a collective breath, they drew from the depths of their love, channeling it like a tidal wave of light against monstrous darkness wrapping tight around them. The shadows roared in fury. The air cracked with energy, the ground shaking violently. Lily felt the barrier of darkness start to break beneath the force of their joined spirits. "Together, love. Don't let go of that feeling," she yelled, feeling both of them fuse into a single pulse of light. Suddenly, the shadows twisted around them, morphing violently into a singular black shape that loomed larger and larger, a monstrous visage drawn from her darkest fears. It lunged at them, its maw opening wide, darkness spilling forth like a waterfall as memories seeped in her childhood fear of the dark, the time she lost someone dear. Max squeezed her hand harder, determination snapping through the tension. "We're going to make it. We have to push through." But the shadow's maw closed down on them, and in that instant, everything froze. The darkness paused, waiting, a suffocating anticipation filling the air. "Your future is here," it whispered. "You can't escape." A pulse of dread echoed through the void as Lily felt her heart lurch. Was this the end, or merely the precursor to something far worse? Would they surrender to this relentless night, or would the light they fought to protect ignite once more, guiding their way through the unseen horrors to come? Lily held onto Max with a grip so tight it felt like her fingers might shatter. Her heart was racing, thumping like a desperate drum in a nightmarish parade. The shadow loomed above them, an all-consuming void whose presence pressed down like a vice, squeezing the breath from her lungs. "Fight it!" Max yelled, his voice shaking but resolute. "Stronger together." The air crackled with tension, and Lily forced her eyes to stay open, to see past the distorted fear that threatened to engulf her. Within the growing darkness, she glimpsed fleeting images, her childhood home ablaze, faces of loved ones she had wronged turning away, their eyes filled with disappointment. Each vision stung, jabbing at wounds she thought had healed. "Max, I..." Before she could finish, the shadow surged forward, a hand of darkness reaching for her. Lily felt power swell within her, a heat that blistered through her skin, igniting the space between them in a furious blaze. She let out a scream, pouring everything stolen from her into a radiant pulse of light. It screamed against the shadows, and for a brief moment, everything shifted. "Together!" she screamed, her voice ringing out like a bell trapped in ancient stone, echoing with frantic hope. Their connection tethered them, forging a barrier for the encroaching darkness, but it wasn't enough. The shadow retaliated, twisting its form, morphing into a myriad of things she recognized. Her fears manifested, each grotesque shape of familiarity that clawed at her from deep within. She gulped down a wave of bile, feeling the nauseating weight of her history pressing against her throat. "Stay with me. Think of us," Max urged, his tone cutting through her encased terror like a knife. What felt like hours passed as her memories replayed in full color, carved with shadows. They were not just moments, these were her ghosts. The bitter regret of silence after her last fight with her father. The last time she saw her sister, eyes empty and lost, and then she saw it, an incandescent light flickering just behind the horde of memories. A memory, soft yet strong, like a mother's lullaby. It whispered to her, tugging at her heart and reminding her of growth, forgiveness, the laughter shared in the sun. Gritting her teeth, she concentrated hard, reaching past every ominous face that loomed. "You won, take us," she bellowed, and the flicker grew into a blaze, wiping away the lingering moments of doubt that haunted her. Max synced their energies, their hands pulsed with a unified light. It flowed around them, dispelling the chilling cold. But the shadow's maw yawned wide again, an abyss filled with disturbed whispers and promises of despair. "Step into the void, and be free," it seduced, the voice now a snake's hiss. Lily trembled. It wanted to pull her in, to drown her in familiar darkness. "Max!" His eyes widened, a flicker of fear breaking through his steely determination. "Don't listen. Remember love. Hold tight." As they felt the warmth wrap around them like a protective cloak, the shadows shrieked, an unearthly wail echoing through the vastness. The grip of fear lessened, but still, they stood at the precipice between two worlds, light and shadow. The dark had a powerful grip on her, refusing to relinquish its hold. Suddenly, the ground beneath them cracked, the air rippling with energy as they felt the pull of the abyss trying to tear them apart. "There's no turning back. We jump together," he shouted above the noise. But as they shattered the darkness with shared resolve, a new sensation gripped her heart, a coiling question of whether the darkness could truly be destroyed. Were they simply postponing the inevitable? "Now!" Max yelled, and the combined force of their will launched them forward. As they leaped, a vision of a distant world flickered before them, filled with endless rooms of haunting whispers, beckoning. "Where are we going?" Lily shouted, her voice swallowed by the quaking void. "Where it all began, the truth," Max replied, but before she could respond, the shadows enveloped them once more, tearing at their souls. And for Lily, the truth felt far more terrifying than the shadow itself. What awaited them in the light could be far worse than the darkness. Lily felt the ground beneath her feet shift, like a living thing reacting to her turmoil. She was caught between light and shadow, and every beat of her heart echoed with the weight of her choices. As they plunged deeper, the colors of despair twisted into a vivid spectrum of possibilities, each radiating echoes of laughter mingled with cries, a cacophony of her fractured memories. "Max!" she gasped, squeezing his hand tighter, feeling the warmth radiate from their connection. "We can't let them win. Stay focused. Fight for us," he urged, his voice steadying her racing thoughts. She could see his determination, a shining beacon even against the swirling blacks and grays that surrounded them. Lily closed her eyes, trying to drown out the sinister whispers lacing through the dark, drawing her into the places she feared most. She recalled their shared moments, the warmth of summer afternoons spent in the park, cooking dinner together, and late-night talks about their dreams under the stars. "We have to remember who we are," she shouted, the words burning out of her chest. "We want to let the shadows define us." As they spoke those truths aloud, the shadows recoiled, as if scorched by their unity. For the first time, the tendrils of darkness hesitated, quaking under the burgeoning light they generated. With each heartbeat, the luminosity surged, illuminating the room around them, the grotesque forms faltering, losing their strength as memories intertwined with hope battled against fear. "Let go of everything that holds you back," Max echoed. "All the guilt, all the sorrow. They have no power now." With a fierce sense of clarity, Lily summoned her resolve, breathing deeply as she focused on the essence of her love for Max, casting aside every weight that had burdened her soul. "I'm done holding on to pain," she declared. "You are not the master of my heart." In an explosive rush, the memories cascaded forth, happiness flooding amidst flickers of joy that ignited their shared courage. The shadows twisted, fighting against the onslaught, but the light surged brighter, tearing through the cold grasp of despair. Together, they shouted in unison, their voices intertwining in a powerful crescendo. Light burst forth from their clasped hands, radiating as it pushed against the suffocating void. No! The dark figure shrieked, its grotesque form fracturing from the sheer force of their combined spirits. You cannot escape this. But outside the dark, hope ripped through, sprawling bright colors where once there was only shadow. The air crackled, vibrating with a resonance that felt like rebirth. The darkness shrieked again, imploding from within, and as its form began to collapse, a whirlwind of colors and sounds enveloped them. The final flicker released its grip as Lily and Max surged forward, feeling a surge of warmth wash over them, a wave of pure energy lifting them beyond the confines of the trembling chamber. In one sweeping burst, the darkness peeled away like a silk curtain revealing a sunlit field, bursting with color and life, a stark contrast to what they had just endured. No way, Max whispered, disbelief coloring his voice as they found themselves standing amidst a golden meadow, sunlight streaming down, bathing them in warmth. The scent of blooming flowers filled their lungs, wrapping around them like a tender embrace. Lily staggered backward, disbelief washing over her. We made it?" she gasped, scanning their surroundings. There were no lingering shadows, no suffocating darkness, only the tender embrace of light stretching endlessly into the horizon. "Yes!" Max yelled, excitement erupting as he lifted his arms in triumph. "We did it, Mom! We broke free!" Lily pulled him into a fierce hug, tears flowing freely as raw relief washed over her. "You were my light," she whispered, her voice cracking with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without you." As they embraced, the weight of their shared struggle fell away, replaced by the uplifting notion of what lay ahead. There were no more haunting shadows, only the vivid beauty of possibilities. And as they began to walk forward, hand in hand, they felt the energy of the world shift, creating a future they could mold together, but in the back of their mind, a lingering thought danced. Could shadows return? Would darkness ever threaten to creep back? And maybe the fear was not merely an echo of despair but a reminder of strength. They had faced it. They had fought back. With each step through the meadow, they whispered promises to one another, a vow never to linger in the darkness again and to hold on to the love that pulled them through. And with that, they knew they would always find their way back no matter how deep the shadows tried to hide. As Lily looked back one final time, she recognized the shadows dissipating into the light, fading at last. "We will remember and we will share this light," she vowed, staring into the radiant horizon where they could finally embrace their truth, together, and they stepped forward, leaving behind not just shadows, but an indelible mark of hope. Now, this is where you come in. You need to subscribe now to ensure you never miss another thrilling tale. This is the moment to show your support for the channel, so smash that like button now to help fuel the algorithm. I want to hear your reactions and theories about this ending, so flood the comments section below. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. Your support means everything.